What is going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 2 live stream here on the prop and betting side of things. We'll get you ready for all the action at the Farmers, including a look at the weather, some of the stats out there from today, and with the same sort of pin locations out there for round 2, we're going to have a pretty good sense of what to expect, other than the fact that the winds are really going to kick up. So over here on the weather side, I'll be able to show you that here in a second. I just realized I have 2 tabs open at the same time, so that's going to get a little bit confusing, but let's make sure we get on the right one here, where it looks like it's going to be in the 15-mile-an-hour range when it comes to your sustained winds, and your wind gusts tomorrow in the 25 to 30-mile-an-hour range. And depending on which model you look at, some of them are worse than the others. I'd say that this HRRR model, which is usually the most accurate, is one of the worst out of the bunch that we have. So if it's going to be in that 15-mile-an-hour sustained range, you're going to see significantly harder scoring averages for tomorrow. So when we go over here to the stat averages, though it only played about 0.6 over par at the South course, it could be a whole stroke harder, if not even more than a stroke harder over there at that side. I would say that I probably put the scoring average at about 2 strokes over par, which means about 74 strokes out there for the field. So more on that here in just a few minutes. On the North course side, it played about 1.8 under par. I think that that's going to be about a 0.5 under par scoring average. So I think that the difference could be a little bit larger on the North course. That's at least my intuition at this point, but we've seen years at the North course where it's played closer to even par when they've had high winds. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if it played closer to even, maybe even slightly over par. Just knowing the pin location, seeing them over there with the Ludwig Aubert round, he was one of the featured groups today, and there were some really tricky holes, even with zero wind out there in ideal conditions. So I would say that that course could even be a little bit closer to a whole 2-stroke difference, just like you have up there at the top. So in terms of your scoring averages, I'd put them well above where you have them today, but that's going to trickle down to all these other categories. So your birdies per round going to go down at both golf courses, maybe down to about 3 per round over there at the South course. Birdie average maybe down to about 3.75 per round at the North course. Bogey average going to also go up at these different golf courses, so could even be 4+ over there at the South course. The North course could even be in that 3 to 3.5 range. So you're going to see a lot of these averages fluctuating, and in general getting a little bit more difficult. Green average likely going to go down to like 10.5 per round. Fairway average, maybe not as impacted as some of the others, but that's probably at most about 7 per round. So that should give you a pretty good idea of what to expect over there for tomorrow. And considering the forecast that we have here on the HRRR, just for the sake of completion, I guess we'll go through a few of the different models that we have on here. All of them are calling for a lot of wind in the afternoon. Now, the question, I guess, is when that wind kicks up. This GFS model has it a little bit calmer for at least the first few hours of play, but that's also one of the weaker models, one of the more zoomed out models that you have up there in the top left. That's what that 22 kilometers means. So it's not really specific for any given location. And you can see all these other ones that are a little bit more specific, namely the bottom 3 here, really have that wind in that 15-mile-an-hour range. So that's why I think it's going to play a little bit more difficult in something that I'm accounting for out there with my plays. So let's talk about a few different things you might want to look at. They didn't have a board up over here on PrizePicks quite yet. So let me go ahead and actually refresh this to see if they have anything posted yet. It doesn't look like they have the PGA side up. We can talk Eurogolf later, I guess, if anyone's interested in that. But Underdog did have a board posted, or at least a partial board for some of the players. So we've got some sportsbook odds to compare to, Underdog, Caesars for some of the birdie lines, that sort of thing. So we'll make sure to go through all of that and try and find you guys some value. So if there's any props that you guys want me to deep dive for you, go ahead and throw those down in the chat. We're going to go through 3 balls and matchup bets after the props. So ideally, right, we're going to deep dive this Underdog board, maybe find a slip or 2 to enter. Hopefully by the end, we can get something posted on PrizePicks. If not, you guys can use kind of what we talk about, that thought process, apply it over here to the PrizePicks side, and then we'll go through those matchups and 3 balls, that sort of thing. But where did I leave off? Where are we at? What's going on, Joseph? Welcome on in. What's going on? Kim Jones said, would I mind going through the pin locations with the wind? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. What's going on? David said Jason killed you today at +2 in the North Course. I hate to hear it for you, dude. Hopefully it turns around for you, I guess. What's going on, Philly? Welcome on in. Underdog Goat, I appreciate you. It's been going pretty well over there on that side. So we'll talk through a slip right here that I was thinking about entering. You can see these two fades I was looking at, and they're on the North Course. But as I mentioned, guys, I think the scoring average is going to be about a half a stroke under if I had to guess. Maybe in the 0.75 under par range, but I could see it even being around an even par scoring average, which would mean that guys like Lee Hodges, Mac Meissner here, would have to shoot -3 out there on the North Course, which I think is out there tomorrow. I think the ceiling round for Showdown is going to be like -5, -6, but getting to -3 is something that is going to be at least a top 40, maybe even a top 30 performance out there for the field. So these are the sort of plays that I'd be actively looking to avoid. And over here on a site like Draftkings, you see the Meissner's -150 out there for the over. And if I find Lee Hodges on here, he's -160 out here for his over. So I got it up on the right page there. And both of them are well into the plus EV value range. Hodges a little bit more so than Meissner. What I'll say about the shots gained metrics, which let me go ahead and actually just bring that up right now. I had these across a few different tabs, which I realized as we were going live here. But Hodges hit the ball well on approach today, which is, I guess, my only hesitation with going out there and fading him. But I guess we'll have to see what to do with it. So let's find up with Lee Hodges here. So Lee Hodges, he gained 1.5 strokes off the tee, also gained 2 strokes approach. Right, that's the tough scene with going out there and fading the guy. He went super low, shot -5 out there round 1. Going to be completely different conditions for tomorrow. But ideally, right, we want guys that were struggling a little bit. So let's see what Meissner was doing, see if it's maybe a little bit more favorable. Meissner was losing off the tee, just gaining a little bit out there on approach. It's a slightly more favorable stat profile if we're looking for a fade. So maybe we keep Meissner in here and we try and find somebody else that's a little bit of a better fade. But with the shots gained metrics over there at the South Course, for those plays, we might as well take advantage of it, right? Try and make sure that our plays are ideal when it comes to that perspective, and not just the plus EV value that we're going ahead and marrying in there. Because when you can find value on the sports books, which they do a good job pricing things long term, right? It's the reason why they're profitable out there on most of these categories out there. Not on all of them, right? They have losing days just like anyone. They get wrong reads on the golf course and misprice the board at times. But over the long-term record, right, they do a pretty good job with it, but it's not the end-all be-all. What you want to marry up with it is some of that traditional analysis. And that's what we're doing over here with the shots gained metrics. So in terms of fades, that's really what I want to look at on Underdog, because if you fade 2 guys from the same golf course, you're able to get correlation for 2.7x, which over there on the PrizePicks side, if you're taking 2 fades from the same golf course, you're only going to get a 2.5x payout. So if you're going to go out there and go for any correlated fade slips, it's obvious that you want to do it over here on this site. So that's kind of why I'm looking for those fades at first. And I'm not looking at the South Course guys quite yet. I think we're going to do 2 different fade slips where we're fading each golf course independently. But we're going to save that for like a combo after. So let's just look at the guys that are playing on the golf course. So Kurt Kitayama was a guy that I was eyeing up before. He doesn't have a line on the sports books, but at 69 strokes, they have to shoot -4 to go under that, which could be gaining 3.5 strokes to the field, could be gaining 4 strokes to the field to go out there and shoot -4. I think that's the kind of thing that I'm looking to go out there and avoid. There's the Lee Hodges one we had in there before. They don't have their full board up yet. So because they haven't had that much time quite yet, I mean, heck, PrizePicks doesn't look at that. They finally posted their board, I guess. So we'll get to go through that here in just a second. But if these are value compared to the PrizePicks lines, like there's a good chance I'm going to mix it in out here for this payout. So they don't have a Mac Meissner lineup. Let's see if they have Lee Hodges up. Hodges with the good round, more likely, I guess, to have a line. So he doesn't have a line posted either. And Kurt Kitayama, I know they had one for main slate, so they do. He's there at 69.5. At 69 strokes, Meissner, we know he's -150 for the over. This is going to be a slip that I'm taking. So I'm going to have to enter this myself over there on my phone in a second. But for the 2.7x payout, we're getting fades from the same golf course that are both values. Compared to PrizePicks, it's 0.5 over there in Kurt Kitayama. And with this Mac Meissner, it's -150 out there towards the over. So I think conditions on both golf courses are going to be harder, not just at the South Course tomorrow. And when you're trying to correlate things, especially when the payout's not different, right? If you're mixing guys between the courses on Underdog, or if you're keeping them from the same place, I would say that you want to pair them up if possible, just in case one of the courses plays harder than expected. Because as I told you, those pin locations were pretty diabolical out there today, and they're not going to change over there on that golf course. It's something that you might want to keep an eye on. So let's go ahead and enter those two. I know we had the question about the pin locations. I'm going to give you the website to go through. I don't think we have the time here on live stream to go through all of them together, but I'll give you the website here in a second that you can go through. And let me just double check that I entered that correctly. Let's see. 1 second. I did the right pros. I did the wrong amount. Let me fix that. And then questions that we have. David, you have day a lot as well. You think it'll go low tomorrow? Most of your guys went +1 to -1. Yeah, even if you shot minus +2, +3 at the harder golf course, it's not a big deal. But Jason Day, yeah, he was at the harder golf course, I guess, right? So it's not that big a deal. Ryder, yeah, dude, his stat profile is really good. So just to show you guys that, I went over there on the Ship It Nation channel when we were going through some of the showdown stuff before. But Sam Ryder, not Frider. Let's get Ryder up there like we're trying to. You can see they're gained 2 strokes out there on approach, and then lost off the tee, and then was pretty decent with the putter as well. So plus a -1 round on the harder of the 2 golf courses is a decent round, all things considered. Now, it's not elite tier stuff, but it's a good showdown play, that's for sure. I don't think he's going to get that much ownership, and fits this golf course. He's played really well here. He has a top 10 finish. Nearly won here a few years ago out there with the top 5. I think he ended up T4 when it was all said and done. That's, you can't completely overlook that. Course history matters, especially when things get tough. He's seen this golf course in hard conditions before. I believe his top 5, one of the rounds played 4 strokes over par. So if he was able to survive that year, he's shown us an ability to do it before. So I think that's a pretty sharp play. In Pavon, yeah, he's also another course horse. What are the easiest holes on the north and south? So yeah, we can go through that. By the way, the site you want to go through, Kim, is Pro Visualizer. So if you type in whatever course you want to look through, so what was it? The pin positions of both courses, or I'm not going to go through all 36 of them, but if you type in Torrey Pines South Course Pro Visualizer, it'll give you a way to go hole by hole with the wind direction. The reason why I'm not going to do it on live stream is you have to have the compass up, or you have to know the wind direction, and I have to bring up that site out there for each golf course. It's not like we can just go to ShotLink and do it really easily. So yeah, if you want to do that, bring up Pro Visualizer. Great tool for that. It's what I use during my course breakdown videos. And then the easiest holes, that's a little bit easier, something that we can go through here. The easiest and hardest holes, let me make sure we're on the right tab or not. Let me bring that up over here on this side. So easiest and hardest holes. So this is the north course. Easiest holes were the par 5s, and then drivable par 4 7th, and then drivable par 4 11th. So it was pretty predictable, the 4 par 5s, and then that. Then over there on the south course, easiest hole was 6 by far, really the only easy hole, because it's only a 550-yard par 5. Also a front pin location, making it even shorter. But you had a few semi-easy holes. The other par 5s are hard to reach in 2, so they only played a hair under par. Some of the shorter approach shots, whether it's shorter par 4s or par 3s that were shortened to hole number 3. Also, hole 11 was shortened a little bit as well. I actually still played a little bit over par, but there were a few softened holes out there in anticipation of the win that they're going to get for tomorrow. But yeah, really only 6 over there in South Course. So if you're going to look at anything with the wind direction, I guess look at 6 on the South Course, and then the North Course, 5, 9, 10, throw in 7 there, and then 17. And I guess 1, not so much 1, because I don't think 1 will be as easy in the wind tomorrow. But some of those other holes, you might want to check the wind direction on, if that's your sort of thing. Let's get back over here to Underdog. Let's go through some of these lines. Hella annoying to have these on tab to tab over here. Who do I like to get the par 5s tomorrow? Bombers off the tee for sure. All North Course players for sure. You're about to deep dive now and watch my other video. See, I'm only going with North Course players because it should still be easier. I think a stroke and a half easier is pretty reasonable to imagine. And then bombers off the tee, because you have 2 drivable par 4s. That's key. No matter what, unless it's directly into the wind, drivable par fours are still scoreable in windy conditions. Par fives are the same thing. And especially around the North Course when it's only about a 530, 540 yard par five. Even if it's playing into the wind and it's 540, your longest players in the world, like maybe top 10, top 20 longest players in this field can reach those par fives. So I want the guys that are super long off the tee on that golf course. So that's for showdown, and that's for props too. Like that's what I'm looking for in players. The pick six payouts aren't great, but they have 1 to 2 stroke differences from a bunch of golfers. Ooh, so we'll take a look at that. Good call, Ant. Let me actually bring that up real quick, and we'll go through it together. Whenever there's a huge discrepancy, I guess the payout would be worth taking. So yeah, if they're close to what they actually have on Draftkings, it's something that I'm going to ignore for the most part, but a good call out if they have massive discrepancies. So we're not going to do a full deep dive of this board, but you can tell that they're a lot lower. So look at this, like Hertz 0.5 lower over there. As you mentioned down there, right, a whole 2 strokes lower on somebody like an Aubert. So you could just like smash over on strokes here on these sort of players, like a Hideki at 67.5. Actually, I'd maybe stay away from that one. I feel like he's got a pretty good round in him, but like 5.5 birdies, like that's a lot. Like he's juiced way towards the under on Caesars at 5.5 birdies. I guess just to give you that sort of number, like look at this Hideki, he's minus 165 for the under. So this kind of slip where like maybe you use Hideki over there as a feed in that category. You try and take a few more overs on strokes that have huge discrepancies compared to the other site is not a terrible idea. Like the payouts are trash over there. That they have a completely scam product, in my opinion, over there in pick six. But I guess a pretty good call out with the discrepancies because that could be value you want to mix in. So if you were just joining us, this is the slip that we entered over there in Underdog. You can scroll back a little bit and get the full take on why we took these, both values compared to the sports books. But now we're going to go over here to the PrizePicks side and do a little bit more deep diving. Am I crazy for thinking of fading Hideki in showdown? His ball flight can't be great in the winds. That is true, actually. But what I will say, Bobby, is he is a good manipulator of the golf ball. He is capable of flighting it down, hitting some 3/4 shots. So I think that you're not crazy for fading him. The ownership is going to be high. He's going to be like 50% odds, maybe even over 50% over there in single entries for showdown. But he's a good play as well. Like the ownership up top is inevitable. I think there was like 7 guys 8K plus that you can use on the proper golf course. So those guys are all going to get a bunch of ownership. So I don't know if you have to fade them. Like you're certainly not crazy for doing it though, if that makes sense. Like there's a time and place where he doesn't get there. If your angle is that the high ball flight's going to worry him, which from my main slate exposure, I'd be totally fine with that happening, but I'm going to play him in showdown. Going on? How do we feel about Tony Finau? Good stat profile. So he's the kind of player that I'm actively looking to play. So just to give you some of the stats on him, I have it on the other tab here. He gained a stroke off the tee and he gained 1.5 strokes over there on approach. So I love myself some Tony Finau. What's going on, Gianni? Hey, Gsluke, welcome to 2025. Welcome to the channel, Gianni. And of course, Bobby, any questions, just let me know down in chat. So we're going to look at PrizePicks now, which this just dropped. So I have no idea what we have for the pricing. And we have a lot more selection. That's abundantly obvious. And it looks like strokes might be a little bit higher than what we had over there on the Underdog side. Reason I say that is Kurt Kitayama was 0.5 higher. And then we've got a bunch of guys like even Justin Rose there at 72.5. And it didn't feel like we had a lot of guys at 72.5 on Underdog. So if you were looking to take positive stance plays for tomorrow, the place to do it, and by that I mean like unders on strokes or overs on birdies, right? Like somebody going out there and having a good round, you'd want to do it over here on the PrizePicks side, which there could be some spots of value, especially if you can find some guys on the North course to go out there and play. It says the South course for everyone here, but I'm not sure that's 100% accurate for everyone that they have here. Maybe they only have half the board posted as of right now. Let's see. I know that Aubert, Thagala over there on the South course, but are all these guys playing the wrong course? I know Aaron Rai Pendrith are also on that side of things. But look at this. So yeah, they also have Hideki on here at 68.5. Like I know for a fact that he's playing the North course tomorrow. A few of these other guys too, like Homa, Lowry, for example, Tony Finau, right? They're playing the North course tomorrow, and they have them marked as South. So that's a mistake on their end. I'm not sure if they're going to catch that, which means we might be able to anti-correlate our slips and get a full 3x payout. even though we're taking it from different golf courses, which I don't know if there's going to be a massive edge to that. In fact, I don't really think there's going to be a big edge to that, mostly because I think both of them are going to play harder, right? I think it's going to play like a stroke and a half, 2 strokes harder across the board. So as much as that could be value, like I mentioned, correlation matters when you're going out there and entering slips. I don't know if it matters in this case because the courses are in such close proximity and they're going to have the same wind. Of course, I got you. Let's see. So if we're going to look at some unders, I don't hate the look of like a Thomas Dietrich of this course history, but 69.5 strokes. It makes me wonder like what kind of line he'd have over here on sportsbooks. So it's Thriston Lawrence. Yeah, no sort of line to compare to. Who else is down there? So Dietrich, I don't think he has a line. Yeah, so nothing posted for Dietrich either. Kind of a shame that we don't have anything for comparison. But for those guys at 69.5, like I know I was looking for fades over there. Only reason I say that is I feel like there's going to be a few spots of value. And what course is Steven Jaeger on? I guess let me bring up my projection sheet. I can go ahead and just take a look at Steven Jaeger over there. So Jaeger is on the North course tomorrow. So he's playing the easier of the two, and he's there at 70 strokes. Like that doesn't feel like a terrible spot to potentially go out there and mix in for an under. Like if you were going to look for anyone to play for that kind of prop, I guess PrizePicks is the place to do it. But I still kind of want to look at fades. Like this stadium course, I think is going to play 1.5, maybe 2 strokes over par. And for somebody to shoot 2 under like an Aubert, like that's a 4 under par round. Now he could probably do it, but somebody like Lanto Griffin, who let me check on his golf course. Something tells me he might be on the North course, and that's why he's at that kind of number. But let's see. So yeah, no, Lanto's South course tomorrow. So he's playing the harder of the 2 golf courses at 70.5 strokes, 72.5, I should say. I mean, over par would be hitting for us there. And I think over par would be about the average for the field. Lanto Griffin is far from a world beater. In fact, to give you some of the stats from round 1, I have no idea what his stat profile looks like. Not somebody that I've researched quite at this point. Yeah, I guess we don't have the stats because he played on the other golf course without the shot link data. But this is the kind of guy I'd be looking to fade too. So we have a question about Toasty. Toasty's playing great. How do I like him for round 2? I like him in general at this golf course. Let me take a look at his course. I have no idea what he's playing for tomorrow. The 150 guys. Hard to know him off the top of your head in case, unless they're a stud up top. So he's playing the stadium course. He's going to have a tough go at it over there on that side of things. But if he could shoot even 1 under par, that'd be a good day for him. So I think that's the target score over there for Toasty. And we don't have the stats on a Toasty, so we don't really know how he's playing. They have Wesley Bryan at 1.5 over par. Like that's a pretty aggressive projection if I've ever seen one. But like Lanto Griffin, he's kind of on that same level. Like he's not a terrible player, but like he's certainly not like a well above average player. Like I wouldn't say that about somebody like Lanto Griffin. So who else could we potentially fade over there from this harder golf course? Let's see. I mean, Zach Johnson kind of stands out. I mean, Zach Johnson's not a world killer by any means. Joel Damon's been better recently, but historically, Joel Damon would probably be the kind of guy I'd be looking to fade. Luke Clanton, it's his first time ever playing this really difficult South course, and it's going to be with some windy conditions. The guys I kind of prefer to fade would be some of your shorter hitters. So like a Zach Johnson, I think is really going to struggle out there with some of the winds tomorrow. So at 73 strokes, like I know we don't have really anyone for comparison at that kind of number. Let's see. Yeah, they only have like, I guess, higher tier players and a lot of guys in the North course over there on the Draftkings lines. But even like a Zach Johnson, 73 strokes, it's tempting out there for a fade. I was seeing if they had anything posted for his birdies over here on PrizePicks. But you can see at 3.5 birdies, that was a little bit over the average from round 1. Like maybe we even like take an under on birdies over here from one of these players. These guys down at the bottom at like 4.5 birdies. Those, of course, are the guys over there on the North course. But I also think the birdie average is going to drop over there quite a bit. So A KH Lee, he's not the best driver of the golf ball. Like maybe you look at an under on his birdies. Like I'm kind of just spitballing here, but I definitely like this Lanto over. That's for sure going to be a part of this slip that we enter. I'm a little bit torn on the Zach Johnson one just because I wish he was at 72.5. If so, 1 over par would be a hit. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that. But I think it's going to play. I mean, 1.5 over par. I mean, at the very least one, probably closer to 1.5, 2 over. It might not be a terrible lean. Like the push equity at +1, I guess that's kind of nice to have in our back pocket. I'll do a little bit more line shopping, I guess, before we settle on a play, but that's where I'm leaning for right now. And that would be correlating it for the same course. Unfortunately, that's only a 2.5x payout. So over here in PrizePicks, we might want to think about trying to add in something else to kind of offset that correlation. So yeah, I guess if we have to get rid of Zach Johnson, it's not the end of the world. Because we can improve that payout quite a bit. Thoughts on Grazeman at 71.5 strokes. So he's right about even money on books. I think at 71.5, shooting -1 on these tough conditions. I don't know if I'd be playing that. Like, I don't know if I like the over on him. Definitely not somebody I'd be looking to target for a fade, but the under's kind of sketchy. Like, it's such a difficult course where that's gaining 2, maybe even 2.5 strokes to the field. And I don't know if I'm comfortable with it. So I'm probably not doing it. Philly says, is Homa broken or maybe he could tomorrow? It's definitely a maybe he could kind of situation. So if you were following his round, he on holes 1 through 5, I think he was 5 strokes over par. Might have even been 6 strokes over the first 5 holes. Then he holes out for eagle on the easy par 5 fifth. And then from that point on, played pretty stellar golf. So I would say that he's an or he could kind of guy because he showed us for the last 12 holes that he's capable of a lot better than what you saw from the scorecard. So it's really ugly. He looked broken for the first 4 or 5 hole stretch, but he figured it out at some point. So he's always an or he could. Let's see. So I was looking at some of the unders in the North Course before. I know we mentioned that the lines are a little bit higher over here. I guess if anything really stood out, it might be this Steven Yeager prop. But I truly think the scoring average at the North Course is probably at best like 0.75 under par, which means to push this, he's gaining a stroke to the field, which is about where I have Steven Yeager's baseline. But I'm not sure I'd call that like the best value over there for any given slip. So I'm not so sure I want to go with that. Over here on the birdie side, I've got to say at first I thought Sahith Theegala might be value over here for birdies. I ended up looking at this over here on the sportsbook side. He's even money over here on Caesars. So obviously no value. He's the same in either direction. But some of these other guys at 3.5 for an under, if they weren't paying us 2.5x, like I could be about playing them. And because they have these down as the wrong golf course, by the way, these guys that are playing the North Course at 5 birdies, are marked as the wrong thing, you're not going to get the correlation that you should. Like the first round, if you had a fade from one golf course and then a fade from the other golf course, it paid you out 3x. So even though the course conditions, the wind conditions are the same, they treated them like different golf courses, which was, I think, to our advantage. Now that they've done this, I don't know if it was intentional by them going over and doing it this way. It doesn't give us that same loophole. So I've got to say, PrizePicks might not be like the place to play. I know Underdog didn't have a whole lot of stuff posted before. I guess we'll refresh it, see if they added anything to the mix. But maybe we'll take like if they post Lanto Griffin over here on Underdog, like that's something that you can mix in over there. So it looks like they have a few more things posted. Like there's Justin Rose. I didn't see him on there before. Let's see. Do they have Lanto up? Maybe they just copy and pasted the board. Look at that. He's there at 72.5, just like you have on the other site. So while the payouts over here aren't ideal, especially because they have everyone marked wrong, over here in Underdog, I guess we can enter them now. So they have a lot more posted over here now. They make a lot of mistakes when it comes to these. So let's look at birdies real quick. That's where a lot of their mistakes come from. So 4.5, that's on the harder course. Like I think he's at the same number on PrizePicks. Let me double check on that with, Lee Hodges there. So they don't have them up, but they have guys in the same kind of talent level up there at 4.5 birdies. It's not a massive misprice. Okay. Looks pretty same across the board there. Let's look at strokes. Okay. Let's go down to the bottom, try and find some of these scrubs. So there's Mark Hubbard. Mark Hubbard is playing the easier golf course tomorrow. maybe not my favorite fade. There's Zach Johnson that we were looking at. So if you were to take it over here in Underdog, right, the difference is a 0.2x payout. So that's why I'd prefer to take it over here on this site. By the way, if you guys need a deposit match, you can use code Gsluke. And by the way, it's not because I'm supporting Underdog. I have plenty of beef with them over some of their refunds on mistakes that they've made. Yeah, it does give you a deposit match, and it gives me a little kickback with the promo funds. So I guess we'll throw it out there. I'm not against doing that sort of thing. Atlanta Griffin at 72.5. I like quite a bit here though. But if we're looking for another fade to mix in over there from that course, there's not a whole lot of options. Like, we could go to somebody on the other golf course, but the South course, a lot of the guys they have posted are pretty good players. Like Aaron Rise, a good grinder. Sahith, all the same thing. Like, they're not the kind of guys that I'm actively looking to avoid. Ludwig looking like an absolute stud. You can give me all the plus EV value that you want. By the way, just to show you that, Aubert's like minus 150 for the over here on DraftKings. I'm still not going to enter it because of the kind of player that he is long term. But if we're looking to get away from somebody and avoid them in this kind of slip, gosh, I wish we had another like Lanto Griffin level player, because like Lanto is a worse player than guys like a Hostler, than an EVR, at least in my kind of projections, my kind of modeling. So that's why he's like just such a no-brainer fade. But yeah, maybe some more value will open up. I know they're going to add more guys to the board. You see that over there on both sites. If they end up fixing the correlation over here, obviously we can enter that as well. Look at that. A few props already getting entered, a whole bunch. That's crazy with how soon the board just got posted. I'm assuming some sort of capper on Twitter, something like that, posted those two props. Let's see. Do they even have plus EV value, or is that just somebody full on winging it? Looks like it, right? Somebody just full on winging it. My guess is somebody's like, oh, I see the line's way higher, and I'm going to take them for the unders. Maybe they're taking overs. Who knows, right? Over there for tomorrow. Only if I could know what side's the popular side. They should show that, by the way, right? If they're going to have like the popular plays up on the board, they should show you what side of it's actually popular, not just the fact that everyone's playing that player. But if we're going to try and like find somebody with this Lanto Griffin prop, that Sahith one kind of stands out. We're probably not going to find anything here in the live stream, at least for right now. Maybe some people have some ideas down in the chat that we can look at. Let me look at Max Homa. What are his odds? That one kind of stood out there at 69.5. So no odds over there on DraftKings, Fanduel, anything like that. Yeah, like maybe like an under on strokes at 69.5. Like, what is he over here in PrizePicks, by the way? We didn't do full comparison there. So he's at that same number. I don't know. That just feels like a decent lean. I know we don't have anything for comparison, but like they have guys like Jason Day right at 69.5. And I think that they're both in that same talent level. I know the form for Day may be a little bit better than Max Homa, but minus 165 for the under there. So that's kind of why I was looking at that one over there with Max Homa. In fact, we might do that on PrizePicks. That might be the slip that we can go with here on live stream, because if we do that over on PrizePicks, it's going to give us a full 3x payout. So this would be a big bounce back, right? Shooting -3 on that golf course. Oh, as soon as I say that, it's like a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust. It like puts up a massive red flag. We'll leave it tentative, right? I've given you guys a few options, giving you guys a few, brainstorming options that I'm going through. If you guys want to see exactly what I end up entering over there for tomorrow, make sure to check out my Patreon page. Link in the description of this live stream to go out there and check it out. And on there, you're going to get every single slip that I enter over there in Underdog and PrizePicks for rounds 2 through 4, as well as all the reasoning, all the stat averages out there for every single round. That's out there for both golf courses. A lot of what you saw over here on the other tab, as well as all the different pieces of 3-ball and betting exposure that I'm getting to as well. So we're going to go over that here in a second. We're going to go through some 3-balls, matchups, anything that you guys are throwing down there in the chat, and then, wrap this thing up. So let's see what we got down there. I'm getting some juice for over 5.5 birdies. See, the only thing that's holding me back, and it's the reason why, like, I wasn't like, oh, let's enter this over there on PrizePicks, is every time I go to want to take an under, I have this like deep unsettling feeling in my stomach that's like 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, man. That feels like, even if you take advantage of the par 5s, the drivable par 4s, like that's what I expect Homa to do, right? Out of the par 5s and those 2 par 4s, I'm expecting 4 or 5 birdies. So that's 4 or 5 under par right there, right? Heck, maybe one's downwind, he can make an eagle, something like that. The issue is with 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, it's like, how many bogeys is this guy going to make? And I can tell you from watching the broadcast today and seeing some of the really nasty holes, like one of them's 240 yards. It's a par 3. There's a 500-yard par 4 with like nasty rough, super narrow fairway. Like it's scary enough to make me like think twice about it. Like I'm gonna have to, go through my projections after the live stream here, figure out what the wind's doing, take a look at it once again. But same thing with that Sun GM prop. Like it makes me, I don't know. It makes me think twice about it. That's for damn sure. Let's go through a few 3-balls, that sort of thing. So what I usually like to do if we're looking for 3-balls is go through the shots gained metrics. So let me bring up, actually I already had bet the number up. Let me reshare my screen. We'll go through bet the number together here. And what we're going to do is try and find some poppers with the ball striking that we can target against guys that maybe struggled with the ball striking a bit. So I was going to see if they had the tee times up. I guess they don't over here on this sheet quite yet. But let's just sort it by shots gained approach. And like Doug Gim, he's a really good player in windy conditions. Like I would love to see the line on somebody like a Doug Gim. So let's go over here to matchups. We got the 3-balls right here. And hopefully they have a Doug Gim matchup. So he's going against Vince Whaley and then also a Taylor Montgomery. So let's go ahead and see how they played over here. So you got Taylor Montgomery. I'm going to go ahead and star. And then Vince Whaley. And then our star of the show, which hopefully is going to be Doug Gim. I know Doug Gim's got a good stat profile, but I want to see what we have on these other few players here. So let's sort this by starred players. So let's see what we have. So off the tee favors the other two in this matchup, but the approach heavily into the green for Doug Gim, about average for the other two players. The putter was pretty stale across the board, but I would argue that Doug Gim is a much better off the tee player than what we saw for round 1, especially when you get him on a shorter golf course. When you don't have to hit it a country mile like you do at the South course, that favors a player like Doug Gim who's more positional, and he was hitting the absolute shit out of his irons. So I kind of like this. The only thing I don't like here is the plus 120. Like that is an absolute dog shit number. In fact, let me bring up Fanduel, because I'm assuming it's at least plus 130 there. So if you can find it at that kind of number, Hard Rock Bet down here in Florida has been pretty favorable on some of these matchup odds that we've been getting. So you might want to check them out as well if you're in a site that has Hard Rock Bet. So let's see if they have the Gim Reaper up. He's a 3-ball. Be easier to find here. So yeah, he's plus 125 over here on this site. So maybe the best spot to get it. But yeah, take a look at some of the other sites that you have access to try to find the best line available. Hubbard grubbing too many cheesesteaks doesn't surprise me. Hideki, good push equity at 5 birdies for a fade. I would say so, especially on a site like PrizePicks. Underdog, probably even better, but they have them at 5.5 birdies, unfortunately. Underdog, the reason why I say might be even better is that with pushes, you get refunds on 2-man slips. So yeah, I would say though that's a pretty decent under. Let's see, let's get over here to these 3-balls. So the other thing I want to go through is trying to find a little bit more value when it comes to these 3-balls. So that Doug Gim one, I'm going to see what I can get personally. If it's like plus 130, heck, even that plus 125 that we had on FanDuel, I might go out there and play. Let me get these 3 out of there. Let's find another group to go out there and deep dive. We're just trying to find guys that hit the ball well and approach versus guys that were a little bit lower tier. So let's look at Norgard's group. So hopefully they have some lines posted for him. I guess we'll type in Nicholas. I guess they don't have a line for him posted. Yikes. Nope. Okay, so yeah, no Moeller props that we can go through. By the way, DP World Tour stud hits the ball country mile. Victor Perez, he seems like a good wins player. Sam Ryder could be one. I know we mentioned him before, but Sam Ryder also has an elite tier course history that we can lean into. So Sam Ryder is down here against Meissner and Carl Wan. I can tell you right off the bat that Meissner has okay shots gained metrics, right? We were fading him before out there in the matchup. And then the other one was a Carl Wan, who I have no idea what the shots gained metrics look like for him. But let's bring up all 3. Bring them up side by side and go through these. So Akara Wan lost on approach, so that's okay. Meissner, too, is about average in that category and carried himself out there with the putter, which is kind of uncharacteristic because he's far from a consistent putter on tour. In fact, If we bring up his stat profile over here, I can show you that. He's not an elite tier putter by any means. You can see over there on the right, there's hardly any deep green. You can see back there at the Wyndham, I guess, he gained a bunch of strokes putting, but it's a lot of gray and even red mixed in there in between. So the fact that he went out there and carried himself in that category feels very unsustainable. And then Juan just didn't do really anything well but putt. And same thing with Juan. He's also not the most consistent putter that we have. And by the way, guys, this can be found over there on Bet the Number, which is my preferred database. They're the most up-to-date. They're the most accurate database. They have the most stats over here. Like birdies are better, pars are better, fairways and greens, which for a prop better like myself is really useful over here for these events. That's why I like it over some of the other sites like Fantasy National, Rick Run Good, any of those, because they just have a lot of shots gained metrics and finishes. Like that's been around for 10, 15 years. Like a lot of us prop bettors, people that are looking at these stats, playing Underdog and PrizePicks, like we need this kind of data, right? And a lot of those sites just don't have it. So that's why I'm really glad to be a partner over here with Bet the Number. And what you'll see over here with the putting stats is it's a little bit, hit or miss over here with Juan, I would say, right? Gaining 3 at the RSM, losing. Gains 7 at the Black Desert, loses 6 over there at the Sanderson Farms. So the fact that he went out there, right, had a pretty decent putting day doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to carry over there into tomorrow. Whereas that approach play from Sam Ryder, how he actually hit the ball, feels pretty sustainable out there from day to day. So these odds at plus 160, let's see what it is over here on FanDuel. Probably a little bit better. So yeah, plus 170. Those are 2 3 balls that I like out there for tomorrow. So it's not rocket science. That's really the idea out there at the exposure that I'm getting to is I'm looking for guys that have a better stat profile heading into tomorrow and the guys that they're playing. And if it's better than one of the two, that's a pretty good lean. But in these 2 cases, and it's not always that we get that lucky, right? Where the first 2 guys, and I know the stat profile of a few of the different guys in each of these different groups, but it's not always like the first few matchups that we look at are going to be decent value to take. But in both of these cases, they were. So sometimes it is that easy, but a lot of times they have to go through a lot more matchups to find that kind of value. Let's see. Alrighty, guys. That's all I've got over there for the round 2 live stream. Best of luck over there with all of your exposure for tomorrow. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already, and stop on by for the round 3 and 4 live streams, which we'll be doing out here after the round ends over the next few days. It'll be the same thing around the same starting time. So make sure to follow my X/Twitter for all the details on that. And best of luck with everything that you're entering for tomorrow, whether it's that slip that we entered together, a few of those different prop leans or matchups that we entered as well. Hopefully it goes well for us and over there into the green, and we can continue that momentum out there from last week. We got Aubert up there in the lead. We hit the Sepp Straka outright last week. Pretty decent position out there for our main slate exposure. A lot of the guys that played on the South course are like -1, -2. So hopefully they can go out there, grind out some scores on the easier North course tomorrow. It put us in a good position for the weekend. But that's all I've got, guys. I appreciate you guys stopping by, giving me all the love that you guys down there in the chat. And let's move on out here to the second round, and then moving day and the weekend over there at the Farmers.